Incredible transformation. After 6 weeks of struggle, this black woman exposed her office's dark secrets. Jamila sat at her desk, the hum of the Atlanta skyline filtering through the window like a distant promise. The office gleamed with polished surfaces and high hopes, but she felt an unseen weight crushing her spirit. It had been only 6 weeks since she stepped into this prestigious marketing firm, armed with dreams of creativity and success. Her brother's absence still echoed in her heart, pushing her to strive harder, to reach higher, and to chase that elusive dream he encouraged her to pursue. But the vibrancy of the city felt starkly contrasted with the shadows lurking in her workplace. She remembered her brother's laughter, his passion for justice, and the way he empowered everyone around him. It was that memory, sweet yet painful, that stirred the fire inside her. As she navigated meeting after meeting, the insidious culture of bias around her was unmistakable. Colleagues dismissed her ideas swiftly, rolling their eyes, as though she were a fleeting cloud in their established sky. Each slight cut deeper than the last, reminding her of the battles her family faced, the quiet struggles for dignity that unraveled against the harsh fabric of systemic injustice. Jamila clenched her fists, the tightness in her chest a constant reminder of her resolve. She sought guidance from her mother, a respected community leader, who had faced down injustice and emerged stronger. Leaning on that strength fueled Jamila's determination. She vowed that her brother's spirit would not fade along with him. It would drive her to uplift both herself and her community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days turned into weeks, Jamila gathered her strength to confront the murmurs around her. The air was thick with resistance whenever she tried to address the bias. Each productive suggestion met with a wall of indifference gnawed at her patience. These weren't just her personal battles, they reflected a deeper problem hiding in the fabric of the firm. The isolation weighed heavy. She felt the struggle of countless voices drowned out by the thunderous silence of ignorance. Finally, she stood at an emotional precipice, standing firm in her truth. When a colleague's careless comment echoed the negativity she had tolerated for too long, Jamila snapped. Drawing from the pain of her brother's passing, she acted, her heart racing with fury and newfound confidence. She organized a demonstration, focusing her fight into the heart of that darkness. Recording incriminating conversations, she was determined to expose the hidden inequities, igniting a flicker of hope that resonated with others. She felt a shift, a pulse of unity as she rang the bell for change. But doubt lingered, a question that burned deep. Would her brave stand shift the tide? Could a single voice, once silenced, now rise to speak for the many? As Jamila prepared for the fateful unveiling, she grappled with the uncertainty of the moment, knowing her chance to make that difference was finally within reach. When the day finally arrived for her demonstration, Jamila found herself pacing the small break room. The smell of strong coffee and stale donuts filled the air, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside her. Her heart thudded loudly, each beat echoing the weight of her decision. She glanced at the clock, its hands moving far too slowly. Her colleagues, many unaware of the storm that was about to break, bustled by, engulfed in their own worlds of tasks and chatter. Gathering her composure, she took a deep breath, her mother's words swirling in her mind. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the triumph over it. As she stepped out, she felt the walls close in, but she pushed forward. The scent of fresh air hit her face as she stepped onto the office's balcony. Jamila had decided to host her demonstration right there, where everyone could see and hear her. She had arranged for a simple printed banner that declared, "Voices matter. Stand against bias." It fluttered gently in the wind. Jamila knew this was about more than just her. It was about everyone who had faced the overlooked and unheard issues within those walls. Today, she wasn't just a quiet employee. She was a warrior wielding her voice. As she positioned herself in front of her colleagues, her stomach twisted with nerves. Would they listen? Would they care? She looked over the sea of faces, some filled with curiosity, others with indifference. She raised her voice, a tremor of passion spilling forth, weaving her brother's spirit into every word. Today we are not just employees in a firm. We have the power to build an environment that celebrates our diverse voices. The energy in the room shifted. A soft murmur of agreement began to ripple through. She could see a few nodding heads. Jamila recounted personal anecdotes of the blatant biases she had experienced, detailing the dismissals of her ideas and the undercurrents of apprehension whenever she spoke up. She spoke not just for herself but for the countless individuals who had been silenced, equally yearning for a chance to be heard. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, empowering her strength. To remain silent is to say this is okay, she declared, and the fire in her voice ignited a spark in the crowd. People gathered around, whispering in hushed tones a collective realization that they were part of a much larger problem. Amid the swelling crowd she noticed Ava, her closest ally, pushing through to get closer. Ava's eyes were wide, reflecting a mix of hope and apprehension. She clutched her phone, ready to record every moment. The camera gave Jamila a sense of purpose, an added layer of accountability as she spoke. Yet, just as the atmosphere began to crackle with urgency, a shadow stretched across her moment. Tim, one of the senior managers, stood at the doorway, arms crossed and an expression of disdain plastered across his face. The tension in the air thickened, like a storm about to burst. "Is this really how you want to handle things, Jamila?" he sneered, cutting through her momentum. The raw defiance in his voice echoed like a slap, threatening to derail all that she had fought for. But Jamila held her ground, her heart pounding louder than ever before. She would not let fear or authority silence her. "This is about change, Tim. About understanding and progress. We have a responsibility," she shot back, her voice steady. The crowd shifted, a palpable energy buzzing in the air. Everyone held their breath, waiting for Tim's reaction. As Jamila stood defiant and unwavering before her colleagues, she realized the fight was far from over. But today marked a turning point, a day when voices were rising, fists were clenching, and the winds of change began to swirl. Little did she know what she faced next would challenge everything she built, shaking the very foundation of her perseverance. Could this moment of truth spark a revolution? Or would it unleash a backlash that could silence her once again? And as Jamila's heart raced, she braced herself for a battle she never fully anticipated. Tim's smirk faltered as Jamila's unwavering gaze pinned him in place. The atmosphere crackled with unease, and the murmurs grew louder, edging toward a collective rebellion. "What are you afraid of, Tim?" she challenged, her heart still racing. "Fear of change? Fear of being accountable for your actions?" The crowd began to shift, inching closer in anticipation. They were witnessing more than a discussion now. They were on the brink of a awakening. Jamie's voice grew stronger, fueled by the energy around her. "By standing here today, we're not just highlighting the injustices. We're choosing to rise together." Tim clenched his jaw, but Jamila could see the uncertainty flickering in his eyes. How long had he held the position he did, confident that nobody would call him out? That bubble was beginning to burst. By now the crowd was fully engaged, expressions sharpened, their attention riveted on the standoff. Ava, recording it all, stepped in beside Jamila, a silent show of solidarity that spoke volumes. "This isn't just Jamila's fight," she said, her voice slicing through the tension. "It's all of ours. We want a workplace where we can thrive, not just survive. Where each opinion, no matter the voice it comes from, carries weight." Jamila felt her breath quicken. The moment was here, raw and electric. The crowd responded with palpable enthusiasm, faces lighting up in recognition. With every moment, every nod, every whispered agreement, the collective resolve tightened. Jamila knew they were at the precipice of change, but her heart still fluttered with fear. "Tim, we are not here to undermine authority. We're trying to build something stronger. A community that honors everyone's contributions," she pleaded. "Ignoring this issue just lets it fester. We can do better." Tim shifted, irritation simmering just below the surface. "You think you can just burst in here and demand respect? What do you think will happen if you push too hard? You'll ruin your career," he retaliated, his arrogance dripping like honeyed poison. Jamila's legs felt heavy, but so did her conviction. It was a battle worth fighting, and she wouldn't back down. "You're right, Tim. It might cost me, but isn't that a small price for integrity?" For progress. If I have to lose something to gain respect for all of us, then so be it. The crowd was riled, voices rising in support. A few employees had even begun to clap softly, and Jamila felt a thrill of energy surging through her veins. Hope glimmered in the group, lighting a fire. If they could band together, what could they accomplish? Enough! Tim shouted, frustration spilling over. If you think you can come in here, flaunt your grievances and expect things to change overnight, you're mistaken. Is that what you think? That we're just here with grievances? Jamila's heart raced at the emotion in her voice. Each word weighed with passion. We are asking for a dialogue, for our voices to be respected. We deserve to be heard and valued. As Jamila confronted him, the comfortable barriers of their office culture felt like they were dissolving. Heads nodded. Eyes filled with a mix of admiration and anxiety. If Tim pushed back too hard, how would it change everything? Just then a whisper flowed through the crowd. Someone was recording. A half-dozen phones were now pointed at Jamila and Tim, capturing the heart of the moment. A ripple of fear intertwined with exhilaration coursed through Jamila. What would be the fallout of this confrontation? Would it bring about the shift they needed, or would it backfire in a way that silenced them all? The tension hung thick. Let us take this discussion upstairs, Tim finally said, voice lowering as he scanned the crowd, looking for allies. But the energy had changed. People weren't looking to Tim anymore. They were turning to Jamila. As they moved towards the office, she could feel every heartbeat around her. They were in this together now. Little did they all know, the stakes were much higher than any of them could have imagined. What would this pivotal moment reveal about each of them, and what sacrifices would they be willing to make for change? The elevator doors closed behind them, swallowing the sound of the crowd's murmur. Jamila felt the weight of the silence press down as they ascended. Each ding of the elevator seemed to echo her doubts louder and louder. What would await them in that meeting room? Would Tim come at them with the same fury? Or would he attempt to manipulate the narrative when it was just the two of them? As the elevator came to an abrupt halt, she stole a glance at Ava. Her friend was holding the recording device tightly, eyes determined. It took just a flicker of a smile from Ava to remind Jamila that she wasn't alone in this fight. The nerves twisted in her stomach, a mix of fear and adrenaline. This moment, whatever happened here, could redefine them. Tim led the way into the conference room, his back straight and clicking heels betraying a facade of professionalism. Jamila hesitated only for a second before settling into the chair across from him, and Ava stood by the door, ready to stand guard. After a brief moment of silence, Tim crossed his arms, fixing Jamila with an icy stare. You realize that if this goes sideways, it could lead to consequences for all of you. You all could lose your jobs, he said, attempting to wield fear as a weapon. Jamila felt her heart pound in her chest. Tim, we're not afraid of losing our jobs. We're afraid of losing our voices. She noticed Ava nodding, encouraging her to keep pushing. This company claims to value diversity, but what good is that if we're only tolerated and never truly heard? Tim's jaw clenched. You're naive if you think change happens overnight. Do you have any idea how interconnected things are? If I'm taken down, it'll create chaos, and that doesn't serve anyone. You think this is chaos? Jamila felt a surge of fire within her. This is the awakening. This is us finally standing up. We're done with band-aid solutions. If there's chaos, it's because you're refusing to hear us. He opened his mouth, ready to retaliate, but the defiance in her voice stunned him into silence. I know changes are hard, Jamila continued, her eyes steady on his. But it's harder to face the everyday battles of prejudice and exclusion. We're choosing to fight for a future where everyone is valued, where our contributions matter. Tim's defenses seemed to falter. He looked momentarily lost, then his stubborn facade returned. You're just a small group. No one else cares. Don't underestimate us, Ava interjected, stepping forward. There are more people who want change than you realize. We're not just going to slink away when things get tough. We'll keep pushing until we're heard. Jamila caught the glimmer of doubt in Tim's eyes. She felt the first crack in his armor. This was their moment. This can either be a moment of reckoning for you, or a chance for collaboration. If we can come together, look past our titles and focus on people, we'll all come out stronger. Isn't that the goal? He took a deep breath, his expression flickering. For the first time, Jamila sensed he was weighing the consequences. A long moment of silence fell over the room, stretching as if the very air around them was holding its breath. The tension felt charged, alive. Jamila could hear the hum of her heartbeat, the pulse within her ears amplifying the gravity of the moment. Then, just as Tim was about to respond, there was a knock at the door. It swung open, revealing a figure from HR. "I need to speak with you," the woman said, eyes darting between Jamila and Tim. The intervention felt like a jolt, an unwelcome pause in their showdown. What would this unexpected visitor mean for their critical conversation? Would it lead to a breakthrough or derail everything they'd just fought for? With anxiety tightening in her chest, Jamila sensed that the stakes were evolving yet again. The moment had ignited, but where would it lead them next? The HR representative stepped forward, her presence heavy with urgency. Jamila's heart sank as she noticed Tim's face morph into a mask of annoyance mixed with palpable tension. He waved a dismissive hand at the woman, his voice cutting through the charged atmosphere. "Can't this wait? We're in a meeting." The HR woman hesitated, glancing at Jamila and Ava, then back to Tim, gauging the situation. "Actually, it can't. It's important." Her voice wavered slightly but held firm. "We've received complaints, serious ones, about harassment and conduct in the workplace. I need to talk to you both about it." Jamila could hardly believe her ears. Complaints? This was a storm they had felt brewing for ages but never imagined would crash so soon. "What kind of complaints?" she asked, her voice steady despite the rush of emotions inside her. "Multiple reports, in fact," the woman replied, shifting her clipboard nervously. "They mention a culture of fear, instances of discrimination, and a lack of support for minority voices. It's come up at the board level." Tim visibly paled, the confidence fading from his posture as he struggled to respond. That's absurd. We've been making every effort to create an inclusive environment." But Jamila could see the cracks growing in his carefully built facade. The urgency in the HR woman's demeanor was not something he could simply brush aside. "Look, Tim," Jamila said, leaning forward, emboldened by the weight of those complaints. "Maybe this is what we need. An actual reckoning. A chance to be heard. You can still choose collaboration instead of manipulation." His eyes darted between them, and they locked onto him with unwavering resolve. Tim was cornered not just by them but by the growing issues within the company. "Something tells me this was bigger than all of them combined." Jamila felt her own heart racing as the realization dawned on her. The moment she had hoped for was spilling into an unexpected reckoning. "Collaboration?" Tim scoffed, hostility creeping back into his tone. "It's easy to call for unity when you're in a position of privilege. The real world isn't that simple." The air grew thick with tension again, but Jamila wasn't backing down. "You keep using privilege like it's a curse word. It's not. It can be a tool for change. If the real world isn't that simple, then let us simplify it together. Help us bring everyone into the fold." Ava nodded vigorously beside her, her expression fierce and protective. "This isn't about tearing anyone down. It's about lifting everyone up. You're sitting at the center of power, Tim. Now is the time to use it wisely." Tim's tension shifted from aggression to contemplation, the moment hanging delicate between them. Jamila could see gears turning in his mind. Would he choose fear and stubbornness? Or could he face the truth that the office needed change? The HR representative shifted again, breaking the silence. "Tim, I suggest we all sit down, address these issues head-on, and think of actionable steps. This can't wait any longer." Tim ran a hand through his hair, visibly weighing his options. "You all are serious about this," he murmured almost to himself. "You really want change?" "Yes," Jamila replied, her voice stronger than before. "We need to take responsibility and not let fear dictate our future. We're ready to work with you for everyone's sake." But just as Tim opened his mouth to respond, the door swung open again, this time more forcefully. It revealed a group of employees, their faces filled with determination, ready to be part of the conversation that had been brewing behind the scenes. Jamila's breath hitched with hope mingled with fear. Would this be their moment of solidarity, or would they be met with resistance? As more voices entered the room, Jamila felt an unmistakable shift in the energy. The battle lines were drawn anew, and suddenly the stakes felt even higher. The outcome of this moment was still uncertain, but the path forward was beginning to materialize. What new challenges would they face together now? Would this be the turning point she had longed for, or would it unravel everything they had fought for? The room buzzed with energy as more employees filled the space. Jamila felt an electric charge in the air. This was it. Voices were rising in uncertain harmony, some murmurs laced with apprehension, others brimming with urgency. They were there to demand change, all gathered as witnesses to the reckoning that was about to unfold. "Thank you for joining us," the HR representative called out, her voice ringing above the noise. "We were just starting to address serious concerns regarding workplace culture. It's crucial we all speak up together." The murmurs turned to a sea of nods, and Jamila's heart raced with a mix of hope and fear. This was the critical moment they had waited for. Tim stood at the head of the table, and for the first time, he looked every bit the leader that had been missing. His facade of authority cracked as he regarded the room, his eyes darting from face to face. "I appreciate everyone being here," he stammered, a hint of vulnerability seeping through. "But I thought we were going to handle this internally clearly." "That hasn't worked," protested Malik, one of the newer hires, stepping forward. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice was steady. "We're tired of whispers. We need real discussions. This place can be better." The room erupted with agreement. Jamila felt tears prick her eyes. Finally, people were ready to stand up, to raise their voices against the oppression that had festered far too long. Tim shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Jamila and Ava, seeking their support as if he was suddenly unsure of himself. Jamila took a deep breath, shifting on her feet, ready to take the plunge. "Tim," she said, forcing a calmness in her heart, "this is your chance. Work with us. Listen to them." But before he could respond, Maya, another employee who had been silently observing, took a brave step forward. "I'm not sure if I can trust this process," she spoke slowly, her voice wavering. "We've seen changes promised before, only for things to revert when the dust settled." Her words hung heavy in the air, puncturing the fragile optimism that had begun to blossom. Several faces in the crowd mirrored her hesitation. Jamila felt a chill run down her spine. Would this moment slip away like all the others? "We know why you hesitate," Ava chimed in, her tone gentle yet fierce. "We understand trust needs to be rebuilt. But this is about the future of our workplace. It's about safety, respect, and creating an environment where everyone is heard." Gradually, more voices chimed in, each echoing a mixture of frustration and hope. Jamila could see the tension in Tim's shoulders ease slightly as the reality of their demands settled around him. He was no longer just a manager shielded by power. He was becoming part of a bigger conversation. The HR representative started jotting down notes, capturing key issues as they emerged. Complaints about microaggressions, favoritism, and a lack of diversity rang loud and clear. Jamila felt encouraged their unity was tangible, and this group was willing to fight for each other, not just themselves. Yet, just as a wave of determination washed over them, the fire alarm blared through the building, piercing the air with its shrill call. Panic surged, faces shifted from resolve to confusion as people began to stand, unsure if this was real or yet another distraction. "Stay calm," the HR rep urged, but Jamila felt a sinking feeling. Was this a sign that they were not meant to have this conversation? Or perhaps was it a call to action? The chaos of the alarm brought the outer world crashing into their moment of inner truth. As employees filed toward the exit, Jamila grabbed Ava's hand, their eyes meeting with worry and determination. "We can't let this be the end," she whispered. In that moment, a shared resolve ignited. The path to change was riddled with obstacles, but they wouldn't back down now. They needed to push through for themselves and each other. But what awaited them outside? Would the world be ready to hear their voices? As they spilled out into the bright daylight, Jamila held her breath, sensing that the real confrontation was only just beginning. The fresh air hit Jamila's face like a splash of cold water, sharpening her senses. The chaos of fleeing employees filled the parking lot, people still unsure of whether to feel relief or fear. Sirens wailed far off, but for Jamila, those sounds faded into a background hum. All that mattered was this moment right now. Her heart raced. They had been on the cusp of something monumental, and now things felt uncertain. Jamila faced Ava, searching for reassurance. "What if they don't listen?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ava squeezed her hand tighter. "They have to. We've come too far. The crowd moved toward the gathering area, and Jamila could see Tim emerging behind them, the uncertainty etched into his face. As he approached, the group simmered with restlessness, a mix of concern from the fire and a surge of passion that had ignited within. "Look, I know this seems chaotic," he began, raising his hands to gain control. "But we're not safe in here. We need to talk amongst ourselves." Jamila exchanged glances with others in the crowd. Confusion danced across their faces, but a spark of determination flickered in their eyes. They weren't ready to quit, fire alarms be damned. "What do we do now?" Someone shouted from farther back. "Let us find somewhere we can really talk," Malik called out, his long strides making a path through the crowd. "We need to keep this momentum going." Jamila's heart lifted at his words. They weren't just going to disperse into the streets and vanish. They were going to stand together, even if it meant finding their own space to regroup. Tim nodded, urgency sharpening his voice. "The park nearby, it's open and quiet. Let us go." With the crowd following Malik's lead, they moved as a collective body, navigating the shadows of trees that stretched across the grass. Jamila felt the energy transform again as they found their footing in a circle, finding spots in the sun where they could sit and breathe. This was their chance, a chance to open up, to share frustrations and finally to be heard. Once settled, Jamila stood, her pulse quickening. "I know we're all scared," she began, her voice steadying the crowd. "But we've felt it long enough. We've seen it, experienced it. This is our moment to not only stand for ourselves, but for everyone who has ever felt silenced." Applause rippled through the group, and Jamila felt warmth bloom in her chest. Maya stood up next, her expression fierce. "We can't let this die down. We need a plan, something actionable." Tim nodded in agreement. "You're right. We need to organize. Until today, I didn't truly understand how deep the issues ran here. But now I will listen, I promise." Relief washed over Jamila, yet a glimmer of doubt lingered within her. Could he really deliver change? They pooled ideas together. A petition, meetings outside work hours, and a clear message that wouldn't be ignored. Each suggestion built on the last, creating a powerful wave of collective resolution. As the day wore on and shadows lengthened, Jamila felt lighter in spirit. They were becoming a force, united in purpose with a single aim, transformation. No more whispers, just courageous voices. But as she looked around, she noticed a few hesitant faces at the edges, the ones who still seemed unsure what to make of the discussions, the ones who had witnessed things but chose silence instead. Would they ever speak up? What did they need to truly embrace change? Just as she was lost in thought, a faint purring sound fluttered across the park, a news van rolling in. Panic surged through her. Were they prepared for the attention? This was supposed to be their moment, but now. "Do you think they're here for us?" she asked Ava, a knot forming in her stomach. Ava's expression hardened. "They are. We need to be ready. It's time to show the world just how strong we are." A new tide of tension flooded the group as they mulled over this unexpected twist. Would they be able to seize control of the narrative? Or would they find themselves at the mercy of the outside world's gaze? The air thickened with anticipation, and as the van rolled closer, Jamila's breath hitched in her throat. This fight was bigger than just one workplace. It was a powerful opportunity. They could start a ripple effect, but only if they stood resolute and pushed forward together. Would this moment be the dawn of change, or would they find themselves caught in a storm? The van rolled to a stop, its engine purring softly as the driver shifted into park. Jamila's heart thudded with each rev of the engine. Eyes darted across the crowd, some widened in excitement, others clouded with dread. The moment had arrived, and it felt as if they were all suspended in time, teetering between fear and opportunity. "Okay, everyone, stay calm," Tim urged, his voice a beacon against the rising tide of unease. "We need to control this narrative." Jamila glanced at Ava, who nodded fiercely and stepped forward, giving Jamila a push of confidence. Together, they had fought too hard to let a moment of anxiety slip away. As others began murmuring among themselves, shifting uneasily, Jamila took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage she had. "Listen," she called out, and silence fell like a blanket. With all eyes on her, Jamila felt a fire ignite within. "This is our chance. We've been silenced for too long, and we deserve to be heard." A ripple of agreement surged through the crowd, echoing her sentiment. The faces that had lingered uncertain now glowed with resolve. Jamila saw anger turning to passion, and she drew strength from it. The reporters stepped out of the van, adjusting their equipment, their movements deliberate as they began to film. The harsh lens focused on Jamila, capturing her every expression. A shiver ran down her spine as she stepped closer to the group, anchoring herself to the voices around her. "We are not here for sensationalism," Jamila continued, her hands gesturing passionately. "We are here to share our truths. This isn't just about one workplace, it's about all workplaces where voices are stifled." Maya chimed in, her voice strong. "We're tired of holding back. The issues run deep, from harassment to inequality. It's time for change, not just for us but for everyone." The crowd erupted with cheers, fists pumping in solidarity. The sound of their unity filled the park, a chorus of hope that drowned out the sirens still echoing from the distance. But amid the exhilaration, Jamila noticed one woman standing apart, her face pale and eyes wide with fear. "Jessica!" Jamila called, her heart aching. Jessica had always been the quiet one, hesitant to step into the spotlight. "You can speak too. Your voice matters." The crowd turned, making space for Jessica as she shuffled forward, shaking slightly. Jamila knew how it felt to be on the outside looking in. She understood the weight of fear that could suffocate even the strongest desire for change. Taking a deep breath, Jessica spoke, each word trembling but ringing with authenticity. "I've been afraid to say anything. I've seen things, experienced hard things, but I don't want to be afraid anymore." The crowd listened and Jamila felt her heart swell. In those simple words, Jessica revealed a profound truth: fear could hold them all back. Yet it was in their vulnerability that true strength lay. Encouraged, others began to join in, sharing their own stories. Voices intertwined, each account worthy of recognition, each declaration a thread in the tapestry of change they were weaving. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, Jamila felt the weight of the moment sink in. This wasn't just gathering for a cause. This was a movement. Their stories, raw and authentic, were going to change the narrative, not just in their workplace but beyond it. Then a man stepped from the shadows, a familiar face she hadn't expected. It was her boss, Mark. A lump formed in her throat. Did he come to silence them? Or to listen? As silence fell once more and all eyes turned to him, Jamila held her breath. Would he stand with them or against them? The answer hung in the air like a question waiting to be answered, simmering with uncertainty. Mark stood there, his expression unreadable. The crowd leaned in, tension crackling like electricity. Jamila's heart raced. She felt each pulse echoing in her ears. What would he say? Would he dismiss their pain or engage with it? "Jamila," he finally spoke, his voice steady yet strangely vulnerable. "I didn't expect to see this." He took a step forward, visibly searching for the right words. I see what's happening here and I want to listen." The crowd murmured, a mix of skepticism and cautious hope. Jamila's stomach twisted. Listen? Or merely perform for the cameras? She wanted to believe him, but doubt still lingered in the air like a thick mist. "The company has made mistakes," he continued, glancing at the reporters. "And I'm not here to defend those decisions. I'm here to understand. I want to hear your stories." Jamila felt a flicker of warmth in her chest, amplified by a wave of disbelief. "You're ready to listen?" she asked, her voice edged with skepticism. "You mean it?" Mark nodded, his eyes scanning the crowd. "I do. Everyone's voices matter. And I can't make changes until I understand the experiences of those I lead." Maya stepped closer, emboldened. "We need more than words, Mark. We need action. We need to see real changes that protect us from harassment, that empower us to speak up." "Absolutely," Mark replied, earnestness filling his voice. "If you're willing to share your stories, we can work together to foster change. I promise we won't silence you." Empowered by his words, Jamila found herself speaking before she knew it. "Starts with accountability. We want a safe space, no more threats, no more whisper campaigns. We need actual structures in place to protect and promote equity." The crowd began to buzz with a renewed energy. Jamila felt the weight of shared resolve surround her, lifting her spirits. They had come so far from their individual fears, now united in their call for justice. Then from the back of the crowd, another voice broke through. "What about transparency?" It was Jessica, her tone and posture firmer than before. How will we know if we can trust you when we often see things and hear things swept under the rug? Mark hesitated, his confidence wavering. It's a valid concern. I want to build that trust, to put new policies in place. I will share information on our progress every step of the way. I cannot fix the past, but I want to ensure we forge a better future. Jamila caught Jessica's eye, and a sense of solidarity passed between them. Small steps could lead to big changes, and their stories were no longer just whispers in the dark. They were a force making waves. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow across their faces, Jamila felt hope swell within her. They were moving towards something real, a transformation that could have lasting effects. However, just as that hope ignited, the piercing wail of sirens shattered the moment. Jamila's heart sank. Had they called for reinforcements? Had the company reacted to their gathering? As the crowd looked around in confusion, she caught a glimpse of a police car approaching, lights flashing. Fear skittered through her like a chill. What is happening? She whispered, anxiety creeping back in. The sense of unity they built seemed fragile now, threatened by the very forces they sought to change. Jamila faced Mark, her resolve hardening. We want to be silenced. Not now. Would he stand with them against the tide of authority closing in, or would he falter under pressure? The stakes had risen, and as the police car came to a halt, the air thick with uncertainty, Jamila braced herself. The moment now held the weight of their change, and she knew they couldn't back down. The police officer stepped out, surveying the scene, and Jamila's heart raced. She felt like the ground shifted beneath her feet, an unseen weight bearing down. Had they really come for them? She locked eyes with Tim, who stood rigid across from her. There was no turning back now. There was a fire burning in her veins, coursing through the collective body of her colleagues, each pulse resonating with the courage she had cultivated. Ma'am, the officer called, directing his attention toward Mark. What's going on here? Mark took a deep breath. We're having a discussion about workplace culture and discrimination. There's no need for concern, he assured, but Jamila could sense the tremor in his voice. The tension around them crackled like a live wire. This isn't just a discussion. Jamila stepped forward, her voice steady, fueled by the determination of everyone around her. It's a call for change. We're tired of being silenced, whether it's a coworker in the office or a supervising officer. We deserve to be heard. The officer looked at her for a moment, taken aback by her passion. I understand, but we received reports of a disturbance. I need to ensure everyone is safe here. Safe? Jamila echoed, her heart hammering. What's unsafe about wanting equity? What's unsafe about representing what this company claims to believe in? The crowd began murmuring in agreement, heads nodding. Encouraged, she pressed forward. You want to make this a safer workplace? Then let us speak. We're not doing anything wrong. We are demanding answers. Tim stepped in, attempting to reassert control. Let us all calm down. This is our chance to make a difference. If you would allow us the opportunity. No, Jamila interjected. This is our moment to take back our voices. We deserve a space where we can express our truth without fear of repercussions or threats. The crowd echoed her, hands raised in solidarity. The fire alarm thoughts of yesterday dissolved into warmth and connection. They were not alone. Jamila glanced at Ava, who was recording the moment with fervent excitement. This was being documented. There was no way the movement could be silenced. The officer seemed to sense the energy shifting. He looked around at the faces of the employees who stood together, resolute. As long as you're not breaking any laws, you have the right to gather here. I won't interfere if the situation remains peaceful. Jamila felt the air around her change, renewed hope washing over her like a wave. They could do this. The crowd cheer erupted once again. And in that moment, she felt aflame with the respect this collective energy provided. Let us share our stories, Jamila shouted, her heart soaring. Let us share why we're all here. Rise and how we demand change as one. Maya stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. My name is Maya, and I've been here long enough to watch countless colleagues dismissed and futures dashed. It's not only churned my stomach, but it has stripped away so many dreams. It stops here, it stops now. The warmth of determination surged through Jamila as a handful of others stepped forward, echoing similar stories. Each tale layered with struggle and resilience. Each story resonated, intertwining into a movement woven with integrity and urgency. Then, unexpectedly, Mark took a step to the forefront. "I stand before you not to impose authority, but as an ally. I want to be part of this solution," he said, spilling out the feelings he kept hidden for too long. "I will actively seek transparency and accountability. This is my pledge." Change begins with open conversation. Jamila's heart skipped. Could he really mean it? Hope flickered but then ignited. A burning ember. Their voice mattered, and if they worked together they could actually bring about change. The crowd cheered again. The sirens faded into the background as if the world stepped back to witness this moment. Even the officer shifted, glancing around and nodding inside his mind. "You can express your desires peacefully," he affirmed. With their mission now renewed, the fight felt tangible. Jamila looked around at her colleagues, eyes shining bright with clarity for the first time. They shared this vision. They would face the challenges together, pushing for change, forging connections stronger than the chains that had held them back. As the sun began its descent, casting a brilliant orange glow across their faces, Jamila knew their fight was far from over. But this was only the beginning. They were forged by the struggles of the past, transformed into a force that could neither be overlooked nor silenced. And with that realization, she shouted above the rising tide of enthusiasm, "We are powerful together. We won't let this moment slip away. We demand change." As her words echoed, she felt the warmth of commitment spread among them. The darkness of bias would no longer linger. Jamila's heart swelled with pride, for they had banded together against adversity, ready to embrace a future crafted with purpose. Once a whisper, now a resounding chorus. No longer would they stand alone in the shadows. Now it was time to make their voices heard. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You have to help us grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about this transformative ending, because your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. The change is happening, and you are a part of it. Don't wait not even one more second to support this journey of transformation.